Today, California Governor Newsom is going to order all California beaches closed because we can't have people getting out in the sunshine during a lockdown. Also, could General Flynn be exonerated? We have got a lot coming up today, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by the wonderful, the magnificent Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, back in studio. Thanks for being here.
She's talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'll slip you another 5 later.
All right. I mean, times are tough right now. I got to do what I can. Also, Stu Bergier, BlazeTV host of Stu Does America, who you can make sure to subscribe to his YouTube, because if we get him to 25,000, I get to cut his hair with a Flowbee.
That's true, but I don't remember saying it. So we'll have to.
There's
we'll check
video
the tapes.
evidence.
We'll check the tapes.
Well, let's check the tapes. It's there. Let's get to first Governor Gavin Newsom. He's apparently very upset with all of the beaches being crowded over the last weekend over in California. He's got to put a stop to it. He apparently is going to call for all beaches and state parks to close starting tomorrow. This was in a memo sent to all of the California police chiefs. They, of course, wanted to give everyone a heads up to plan for the situation, which I'm sure will be a very sticky one, because I have a feeling, Colonel, that Californians are not going to take this lightly.
No, they're not going to take this lightly, and I think this goes to prove that Governor Newsom is a racist, because mostly white people want to go to the beach, and he's against white people. No, but all seriousness, this is a violation of the First Amendment. This is exactly what Attorney General Barr's memo talked about. He has taken away that right of people to peaceably assemble. Mm-hmm. And, why wouldn't we want people to stay locked away and not be able to get out and get fresh air, salt air? Yeah. That's good air. And then, like you said, get the sunshine. But I don't think California's going to take this lightly. And I believe in the long run, he's going to end up hurting himself. This is house arrest now. Mm-hmm. We've gone beyond this thing of shelter in place.
Yeah, Stu, what do you think?
I mean, this is the exact opposite of what you should be doing, right? Like, it is the exact opposite. You're asking a lot out of people. I mean, you're correct. It's like, this is basically house arrest. You're asking people to remain inside. And instead of encouraging them to do things that are overwhelmingly thought to be by scientists as safe. I mean, spaced out people in open air in the sun is about the safest place you can possibly be. You can certainly go in if there's some overt problem where tons and tons of people are right on top of each other or whatever. But generally speaking, this is the type of activity to encourage. And, I think the American people understand that, this is a serious situation. And if you are reasonable, they will be cool with it.
Yeah.
They're going to be okay. We've already given up a lot here. We've slammed the economy into reverse. We've given up seeing our relatives. We have Mother's Day coming up, and almost everybody is not going to see their mother because of what's going on. We've given up a lot here. You can't give us pulling our cars into church parking lots, and you can't give us that. You can't give us, playing golf. You can't give us going to a beach. I mean, these are just insane things. And, as you point out, we're talking about constitutionally guaranteed rights here, not just from, the right to assemble. That also goes with the protests that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. But, the right, to be able to worship the way you want to worship, the right to be able to get your gun, which is an essential activity considering it's constitutionally guaranteed. These are things that, you could easily, if your real goal is to say, how do we minimize this and keep compliance high, right? So we can minimize the spread of this disease. You're going to go out into one of your press conferences and says, you know what, we were worried about people meeting at church, but look at what this church has done. They've cleared out the parking lot. Everyone came in their cars and they broadcasted over loudspeakers. What a great solution from the American people. You are praising it. You're encouraging it. They are doing the exact opposite, because it doesn't seem like their entire goal is aligned with what they keep saying it is.
Yeah.
And I don't think it fits with the science and the data that we know now. We know that the most vulnerable populations for COVID-19 over the age of 65, obesity, diabetes, hypertension. So we don't need this collective punishment anymore. Let's protect the people that are vulnerable, but let's allow healthy people to go out there and do things that keep them healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I talked to Avik Roy a couple weeks ago, who, he was with National Review, and he's done all sorts of stuff over the years. And he's got a new place like a think tank that came up with an actual plan to get out of this. And it was pretty detailed and went through a million different parts of it. But like our one kind of superpower against this virus is what you just mentioned. We know it's really, younger people can do much, much better against it. It's not, we just had a 17-year-old here in Dallas die recently. It's not 100%, but it's much, much, much less brutal on younger people. So with that known, we can protect people who are over 65 as much as we can and start getting back to work. I think, Governor Abbott's going down that road, I think, the right way, and we're starting tomorrow. I've got a restaurant reservation. Very proud of myself. I'm actually going to a restaurant.
So you're one of the 25%.
I am.
Oh, okay.
One of the elitist 25%.
Yeah, okay.
But, look, this has to happen. This is not an option. No one ever, I don't think, with the exception of Ezekiel and Emmanuel, I haven't heard anyone argue that this is like some long-term solution where we all just stay at home forever. The economy has to come back, and we have to do it in a way that will minimize any losses we might have. We've had this time to gather this information where we've learned more about it. We've been able to back up our hospitals and get more, the supplies that we need. But it's time.
Yeah. Stu brings up how the way that Texas has been rolling out their reopening of the economy. I know you're a huge fan of it. I love that we're doing something. But as I said on Stu Does America the other day, it worries me and it frustrates me that Governor Abbott has apparently, really picked winners and losers in this, because there are still certain industries that if you're an owner of that bar, of that gym, of the barbershop, of the nail salon, which, by the way, I need to go to desperately, you're screwed. Yeah. And it's frustrating to me because if you're going to put up these guidelines, the 25% capacity and the social distancing guidelines, why not make that available for everyone, every business owner? If you can abide by these guidelines, open up.
My problem is that they instantaneously shut down, but now they're telling people we have to gradually give you back your lives. I don't agree with that. And when you look again at the numbers here, Texas is a state of 29 million. We have seen 732 people unfortunately lose their lives, but Texas now has 2 million people unemployed. Texas now has spent $2 billion on unemployment claims. Which means what? When we do open up whatever business, they're going to see their employer unemployment tax go up to cover what has happened. So what I find the most heinous is that the people that are making the decisions about who is essential or what is essential or non-essential, they're the ones that have not had any skin in this game. Yeah. I have not seen an elected official not being paid.
That's true.
But yet they're the ones making decisions about who is not going to get paid. Yeah. So that's what has a lot of people up in arms.
Yeah. In a really perverted way, that's one of the only backstops we've had on the economic collapse is that about 40% of our spending these days is government, and none of that's gone away. That's all. It's all right there. Yeah. I guess that's an upside. But to your point, I think I am a little more friendly. I think to Governor Abbott's approach here.
Which I love Governor Abbott.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, but I don't think I would disagree with what you said. Yeah. I think it probably would have made sense to do it for everyone. I'm not exactly sure. I think honestly, if you want the honest reason why I think it happened, is because Donald Trump was in a press conference and called out the Georgia governor for doing it. And
that was wrong.
He sent a very strong signal to every red state governor to say, hey guys, we don't want you doing this yet. So I think Abbott maybe took that and delayed it. The fact that it's only a couple weeks, though, it doesn't. I don't think it's a massive difference. And I think one of the things I understand the motivation of saying, if we come out too strong, like let's say we did, big gatherings and bars and everything opened up, there's the possibility of another serious outbreak, and then we're back in the situation again. And I can't do this. Look at my hair. I can't do this anymore.
Which is why you need to subscribe.
My own hair. I'd be happy to cut
That's right.
I'd be happy to get it.
Which is why you could just subscribe to Stu Does America, and I can cut his hair.
Yeah.
With the Flowbee.
I really don't want that to happen. I want less subscribers on my YouTube channel now.
Never thought we'd get you there, but here we are. Before we go really quickly, law enforcement has been put in a really, really difficult position because they have their, the people above telling them you're supposed to enforce something that I think a lot of them are very uncomfortable enforcing because of the oath that they took. What do you do if you're a law enforcement officer in California and you're being told to, arrest people or penalize people for going out to the beach and getting some sun?
I think that you really have to look at, are you protecting and serving the people, or are you bowing to a tyrannical edict or an order? And I give the example of what happened here in the state of Texas in Laredo, where they actually ran a sting operation to catch, to catch 2 women who were doing nails in their own home.
I wish I was there.
Okay, and eyebrows.
Yeah.
So what is incredible to me is that we have people saying that you can't have your business open and you can't even run your business in your house. Now, that to me is the overreach. And I think that the police have to be a little bit more common sense and say, hey, look, we're not going to arrest you. We're not going to give you a citation or anything. But please just try to, operate within the guidelines that we have here.
Yeah, Stu, last word.
I think it's, it's true, and we've seen this. Salons are a great example of this. What they're finding is about 80% of the people working at salons are now going to people's houses and cutting hair in a situation that theoretically is much worse, right? Like you're now going into someone's home. There's not all the equipment. You don't have all the sanitation.
All the disinfectant
right, you don't have
their salons.
Exactly. You're not as well prepared. You're not in a controlled environment. It's working against itself, as most big government ideas do. They tend to work against themselves. I think you do have to let people, they're going to eventually have to take their own risks. And we're at that point, I think, in America, because, we wait too much longer, we're not going to have anything to come back to.
Yeah,
that's true.
All right, when we come back, Grant Stinchfield joins us, and bombshell notes have been unsealed from the interview of General Michael Flynn, revealing the actual motive of FBI agents. Yeah, if you haven't heard, you want to take your blood pressure pills for this. Back in a minute.
I just want them to treat us like adults.
Yeah. That's it.
That, if you start telling people.
A trove of handwritten notes from FBI agents interviewing Mike Flynn revealed what may be evidence that they unfairly targeted him. He was, of course, found guilty of lying to the FBI during the Russia investigation. The notes are from the January 24th, 2017 interview of Flynn. They were unsealed yesterday at the behest of Flynn's lawyer and also the DOJ. So thankfully, Bill Barr has gotten involved now, which I trust far more than anyone else. But the notes read, what is our goal? Truth/admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired. And this is the latest development in, I think, a series of, kind of trickle out developments on just how badly this was handled and just how horrible it stinks. We are joined now by Grant Stinchfield, conservative commentator, who you're not Stu, right?
No,
Stu's
I'm not
left
Stu.
us, and we
better
are now
looking than I am, but I'm here.
We are now joined by Grant as well. Grant, let me give you first stab at this. What is your take on the development of this General Flynn situation?
I don't think anybody should be surprised by this at all. In fact, when this was all breaking down, you knew it was a witch hunt, and you knew it was all about President Trump. They went after every single person associated with President Trump. Anybody that came into his administration was a target. With the Russian collusion, bogus narrative, fake, phony story that they had going, anyone that even, as the old joke says, ate Russian dressing on their salad was going to be looked at by the FBI. And I think those inside the FBI at high levels should be ashamed of themselves. And I love the FBI, and I love the good working men of the FBI, but there were those that disagreed with where this administration was going to go. He said he was going to root out the swamp. And what happened when he said that, everybody in that swamp turned into alligators, and they went after everybody associated with President Trump. And General Flynn is a good man, and he got burned in all of this.
He really did. And I think that the first thing you got to ask is, what has Christopher Wray been doing? Since he became the director of the FBI, why wasn't he going in and rooting these things out? And now the revelation is one of those agents that were there interrogating General Flynn was Peter Strzok. Yeah. And of course, Andrew McCabe was involved. But there's a video out there that shows James Comey back some time ago talking about how we kind of skirted normal protocol to go into the White House. We didn't coordinate with the White House counsel. We went right directly. So we
set him up.
They set him up.
Yeah.
So you have intent that is there. So without a doubt, this is criminal. And something has to be done.
You know what concerns me the most of all of this is if they're willing to do this with a general, they're willing to do this with the National Security Advisor, the President of the United States, what are they willing to do to you and me and you, Colonel West, if they decide that we're associated with somebody they don't like? Not even that we're doing anything criminal. We're just associated with somebody they don't like. How far are they willing to go? How often has it happened against somebody that doesn't have the power to actually root all this stuff out? That's what's scary.
Well, we saw that with the Tea Party movement.
Yes.
They used the IRS, a government agency, to squash that political opposition. And so we know how far that they will go. They'll go after anybody, ma and pa, constitutional conservatives, just out there, exercising their freedom of speech and freedom of expression, because they don't care. They want power.
Yeah. The cynical part of me believes that nothing will be done because it's the FBI, and I feel like whenever there's this convoluted, multiple different parts, let me just say it like this: this could be a Glenn chalkboard, right? This is a Glenn Beck chalkboard in and of itself. There are so many different moving pieces. It's hard to put together. A lot of times those stories get swept under the rug because they're too hard to tell. They're too hard to come out. But then the other part of me is like, but if there was ever a president to be in office during a time where the FBI or the deep state needs to be exposed, it would be this one, right?
Yeah, but I go back to a famous saying of Greta von Susteren when she used to be on Fox News. She said, Washington, D.C. is the city of no consequence. And I think that's where your cynicism comes in, because we have seen it. We've seen it with Hillary Clinton. We've seen it with all of them. And nothing ever. Look at what's happened right now with Joe Biden and the sexual assault charge. So there's a part of us that says, maybe this time, but I think it's going to be up to General Flynn to, prosecute these people and get them into the court of law to say that he was, unlawfully targeted.
Yeah. Grant, your thoughts?
Attorney General Barr, hopefully, he's doing the right thing now, it seems like. Maybe he's the key in all of this, that really someone will stand up to all of this, because this was all part of the first Russian collusion hoax, and now the only evidence that there was collusion between a United States citizen and Russia is the Hillary Clinton campaign pushing this bogus dossier. That's it.
Yeah. Colonel West, you mentioned Joe Biden and how he is able to just go right on ahead with all of this, even though, 2 years ago, we had Brett Kavanaugh, who just was crucified, not only by the Democrats, but by the mainstream media. Joe Biden, he's got all of his senatorial records that are now protected by the University of Delaware. They've been asked to unseal those, release them to the public. They've said, no, we made a deal that we're not going to do that. Of course, this was after they were supposed to release them. Then they said, never mind, we're not going to release them. We've made a deal not to do that until Joe Biden retires from public life. Now we're seeing, even though there are a lot of Democrats who have come out and supported him anyway, there are some that are like, no, we've already been swayed over by the fringe and we're not coming back. You've got the Washington Post editorial board on Wednesday joining a rising number of voices from the left calling on Joe Biden to address the sexual assault allegation and for those records to be released. But you think he's not going to actually have to face that?
I think that he is sitting around and he's saying, hey, look, this is how we operate. Keith Ellison was accused of physical assault. He got away with it. He's the attorney general now. Bill Clinton got away with it. We know that we saw in Virginia where you had the governor, Ralph Blackface Northam, and you had the lieutenant governor there in Virginia that was accused of sexual assault. It never happens to them on their side. So he's just believing, I can wait this thing out, it'll go away. I don't think that's going to happen this time.
Yeah, Grant, I want to get your thoughts on that, but I want to bring in Nancy Pelosi's comments from earlier this morning. She was asked, I believe it was the Washington Examiner who asked her, hey, I'm sorry, this is the Allison Camerota clip that we have. She was kind of asking her about the Joe Biden allegations, which was shocking to see from CNN. It was a little bit of a softball question, but here is what Nancy Pelosi had to say.
And I'm a big, strong supporter of the Me Too movement. I think it's been made a great contribution to our country, and I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded. I know him. I was proud to endorse him on Monday. Very proud to endorse him, and so I'm satisfied with that.
He hasn't. To be clear, he hasn't addressed it. His campaign has addressed it, but he has not directly addressed it. Should he directly, publicly address it?
You know, it's a matter that he has to deal with. I supported him because he's a person of great values, integrity, authenticity, imagination, and a connection to the American people. He understands the kitchen table issues of America's working families. His father lost his job when he was a boy. He knows what that feels like for a family and how they're going to pay their bills, their health bills, the education of their children, supporting the seniors and their families and the rest. It's just he's the personification of hope and optimism for our country, and I was proud to endorse him. And America needs a person like Joe Biden with his integrity and his vision for the future.
Grant, I have a feeling you may have a couple things to say on that.
I the whole show on this one soundbite. First off, I'm shocked. Is that Alison Camerota?
Yes.
I'm shocked she even asked the question.
I know.
To be fair, nobody's really asked him, and he hasn't responded. And then she says, well, I guess we have millions of men and women across this country right now that are now eligible to be president of the United States because they lost their job.
Right, that was a weird...
Because their father lost their job, so now they can be president. The hypocrisy that is so on display here from them, are they not sickened by themselves when they watch this on TV? We talk about Justice Kavanaugh, this poor man who was thrown through the ringer on this. And I will still say, I'm not going to hang Joe Biden out to dry on the sexual assault allegations. Should it be investigated? Fine. Should he respond? Yes. Get to the bottom of it, where the facts lay out, then you make a decision. I'm having the same exact response to allegations against him that I had against Justice Kavanaugh. But the fact that they don't, the fact that they just brush this under the rug and they're part of the Me Too movement, give me a break. America has got to see through this.
Yeah. Do you think that they do? Do you think that they do see through it, Colonel?
I think some do. But, if you sit down every day and you just look at CNN or MSNBC, I mean, you're oblivious to it. You're oblivious to so many things. I mean, you think Benghazi is the guy that lived around the corner. So I was just waiting for Nancy Pelosi to say, Joe Biden and I, we eat gourmet ice cream together. But it is appalling. And to think about this, after we got past the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh, you heard nothing more from Christine Blasey Ford, Deborah Ramirez, and I forget the third lady's name, but they just fell away. So it just, once again, this is what they do. Like you said, they'll go after anybody. They don't care that your wife and your daughters are sitting there in that hearing room. They will do whatever they can to destroy you. So what America has to understand, the level of tyranny, the level of evil that we're facing here from the progressive socialist left.
Yeah. Certainly, we're going to have to come up with a standard, right? Grant, as you mentioned, you think that...
Well, I think we have a standard in America. It's spelled out in the Constitution that everybody's entitled to due process.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, that's the standard.
But you said, okay, they wanted an investigation. They had an FBI investigation whenever Kavanaugh, was nominated. Are you also in favor, Colonel West, of an FBI investigation because someone accused Joe Biden?
I think you have to get to the bottom of it. Absolutely. There has to be a consistent standard all across the board. And I don't care if you're a former vice president, a former senator, whatever. They come out and they say, believe all women. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the standard that they set.
Well, and certainly, even if you don't believe all women, this woman, Tara Reade, certainly has more credibility in what she's saying than any of Kavanaugh's accusers.
Yes, and then you have, my favorite girl on the left, Alyssa Milano. Her and I go back and forth all the time. She comes out and writes an editorial, I don't know if it was today or yesterday that it came out, and she says she's so worried that Reade is going to be used as a pawn in all of this. Well, that's exactly what I was saying about Justice Kavanaugh's accuser.
Yes.
And I'm sure Alyssa Milano is very concerned about Tara Reade's well-being.
Yeah.
Very concerned. All right, when we come back, talk about government overreach. Police officers in Wisconsin show up at a mother's home because she violated a state order for letting her kid go on a play date. Yeah, we'll get into that back in a minute. We talked earlier on the program about Governor Newsom shutting down all of the beaches, this type of overreach we are seeing all across the country. I think they're tired of it. The latest was in Wisconsin. There were some police officers. We've got a video from the homeowner's perspective. They showed up at the homeowner's doorstep, allegedly because there was a complaint. The complaint was this woman dared to take her daughter on a play date. There is, after all, a stay-at-home order going on. Here is a little bit of what that exchange looked like.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I'm Deputy Everhart with the Sheriff's Department. So, are you aware that we're in a stay-at-home order right now?
Yeah, obviously.
By the government?
Yes,
of
I am
Wisconsin?
aware.
Okay, you're aware of that?
I am aware.
So I don't need to explain that to you?
No, you don't need to explain
Okay,
that to me.
I can if you need me to.
Go. You can because your officer was just here 2 weeks ago.
Okay, do you need me to
and
explain
he
it to you or
explained
no?
it to me that you guys weren't enforcing that order.
Oh, we're about to.
Okay.
But you understand it though?
Okay, so why are you here?
Because your daughter is going to play at other people's home and you're allowing it to happen.
They were over here as well. So are you here?
They've been talked to
Okay.
about it. So
No,
I'm
I
talking to
understand.
you,
Okay.
and so either you can acknowledge it or you can argue.
I'm acknowledging it.
Okay, stop having your kid go by other people's home.
Okay, I acknowledged it. Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Apparently, there was some other
I
issue
acknowledged it.
before
I acknowledged
Okay,
it.
good.
Anything else?
Yeah, I need your last name. Amy, what's your last name?
I'm not. Is there a reason you're asking for
I'm
it?
adding you to the screen so we can document that we had contact with you.
Is there a reason for it?
Yep, because you're violating a state order, which is a...
If you let me finish, that's what I'm explaining to you. Because you're violating an order.
I haven't violated an order.
We're going to have documentation in our screen with your name because we're here talking to you about that you said you just acknowledged.
Okay.
So then there's documentation.
I would like to
of
see the
who we
law
spoke
that
to.
requires me to give you that information.
Thank you.
Because I haven't,
What is your middle initial?
I don't believe that I'm required to give that to you. Are
Wait
we
for
done
middles.
here?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Your middle initial and your last name.
I'm not giving it to you. I haven't done anything wrong.
Okay.
I already
Perfect.
got it.
We got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll be documented too that you're uncooperative.
Okay.
Ooh, that'll be
permanent record.
documented too, that you're uncooperative. Yeah, Grant, it'll be added to your permanent file.
You know what's so upsetting about this is that I have ridden around in my mainstream media days, in my work with the NRA, and training with police officers. I know police officers that talk more respectfully to convicted
Yes.
murderers and
Yes.
drug dealers when they arrest them
Yes.
than talking down to somebody like that. And what happens is the world will see this clip and it'll give officers a really bad name. Those officers deserve a bad name. Don't talk down to people like this. This is an order that people are really standing up for their rights, and don't lecture a mom on how to take care of her child to a play date. And it's going to give officers a bad name. That's what I'm most concerned about with this, and that guy doesn't understand. We have civil liberties in this country and the right to do things that we want to do, and the fact that he's not really having any respect for the Constitution, much less the poor lady on the porch.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate that male officer for his apparent promotion from mall security guard. But he does start off very combative.
Yes.
Aren't they supposed to be trained de-escalation procedures, right? And she says, I don't need you to explain it to me. Are you sure? Because I can if you'd like.
Well, that's, I think, again, you have some people out there that are, all of a sudden bolstered by this newfound power, which is very disconcerting for me. But the thing that I am really concerned about, and we saw it here in Dallas, where the woman was given a citation for playing the harp in her front yard, and her neighbors were in their respective front yards, and they said it wasn't enough social distancing. I mean,
I'm sorry. I think I missed this one.
oh, yeah.
Can you hold on? Let's back up for a second. She was given a citation for playing her musical instrument in her front yard.
Performing a concert for her neighbors in her front yard, playing the harp. Her other neighbors were in their yards, and she was given a citation.
Stop.
Okay. I'm being compliant.
This is happening across the country.
This happened across, yeah, and so this is.
But in Texas, it just.
That's what gets me.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to go through Checkpoint Charlie back as a young lieutenant in the Army, and so I saw East Berlin. And the thing that I am starting to see happen here, 1 in every 100 citizen in East Germany was an informant to the Stasi. Mm-hmm. And there are just hundreds of thousands of people that were arrested for no reason. I don't like this thing that is happening where we've got a mayor and all of these folks telling Americans to snitch on Americans. Someone told that this mom was allowing her kid to play with other kids. That's insane.
Yep. Yep. It is interesting. You did make the connection to the Nazi Germany.
No, East Germany.
Sorry, East Germany.
Yeah.
And I make that same connection. I'm told by certain people on the right, of all people, that's what it's like when the left says They're fine with big government tyranny. It doesn't surprise me. It's something that I see coming. When the people on the right who call themselves conservatives go along with it, say, well, it's for your own good. I'm like, have you not heard that before and seen what comes along with it?
The one common theme that I have always known to be true is that bureaucrats in Washington or City Hall making decisions for me and my family never go well. I know what's best for my family and I. And I do know that one thing great about America is we are allowed to freely move about this country. We don't need to be showing our driver's license to see if our last name starts with a certain letter so we can walk on a jogging trail.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Do you think, Colonel West, that there will be some sort of reckoning for all of this? You know, we've got Dallas County
Clay Jenkins,
little Napoleon, who just,
he's not Napoleon.
He is drunk on power right now. There's absolutely no other reason for him to be out there making the orders that he's making, clearly overreaching. Do you think that Dallas County will finally see this type of tyranny for what it is and do something about it?
As long as it's kept in the forefront. The sad thing about the American people, they have a soundbite mentality. And so as soon as this thing, if we get past it, you know, people will just flick it off and they won't remember. They won't remember. And the sad part of that is that we have shown people how easy it is for us to be, you know, drilled down into acquiescence and compliance. And so that's what my concern is, that we have showed them how easy it was to come out and say, we're doing this for your good. And we have to create this fear, this panic, and this paranoia.
I think it's important that the rest of the country look at Dallas as an example of what can go seriously wrong. So we've got this salon owner who's up there just trying to open up her business and open for work. They fine her $1,000, threaten her with arrest. This is happening in Dallas. When I got to Texas, Dallas was a firmly conservative city. This would never have happened here. In 20 years, that city has changed. We're seeing liberal policies pushed on American people like never before. You mentioned the county judge, Clay Jenkins, and his overreaching policies. If this can happen in a city like Dallas, that is now firmly a liberal city, much to the surprise of most people around the country, this can happen in any city where you slowly start to elect liberal leadership into positions of power. And I don't care whether it's the zoning board, whether it's city council, or whether it's your state representative. You keep electing those liberals. This is what happens. And slowly but surely, our rights will be chipped away at until they don't exist anymore.
But see, what Grant is bringing up is not just Dallas. Is Austin, is San Antonio, is Houston, is El Paso. And that is the blueprint for the left, is to come into strong red states, take over the major population centers, make the rural areas, you know, relegate them to irrelevance, and then the next thing you know, you flip a state.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, the World Health Organization hails Sweden. All of a sudden, Sweden is now the model for fighting coronavirus without a lockdown. That's weird because I don't remember them saying that before. We'll get into that when we come back.
I'm sure right. I mean, that's why y'all are so important.
All right, Sweden has taken really heavy criticism for refusing to issue a nationwide lockdown while facing this pandemic. I believe they are, if not the only one of the only places who has decided, you know what, we're going to achieve herd immunity instead of doing the lockdown. We believe that it's going to be quicker and we're going to ultimately lose less people overall if we just let our people be exposed to it. Let herd immunity be achieved instead of staying shut in our houses. Now, the World Health Organization, of course, now, in hindsight, once we have data from Sweden, is hailing them as a model for fighting coronavirus. Here is a little bit of who's the World Health Organization's chief emergencies expert talking about it. Watch.
Sweden has put in place a very strong public health policy around physical distancing, around caring and protecting for people in long-term facilities and many other things. What it has done differently is it has very much relied on its relationship with its citizenry and the ability and willingness of citizens to implement physical distancing and to self-regulate, if you want to use that word. And in that sense, they've implemented public policy through that partnership with the population.
How convenient that now all of a sudden they get to come out and be like, yeah, I mean, see, Sweden did it the right way. If you guys would have just done it that way, you would have been better off.
What I got out of his clip was that, see, this is what happens when you treat people like adults. In America, we're treating people like children.
Yeah.
You can't daggum take your kid over and let them have a play date.
Right. Right.
We're going to send the cops after you.
Well, and I think, Grant, I want to get your thoughts as well, but I do worry that here in America, we've become more and more inclined to take the position of it's for the greater good. It's for the greater good. So now it's not, because when I look at the Wisconsin police officer video, I'm like, kids are not dying from this outside of a couple outliers, right? Kids, normal, healthy children are not dying from this the way that they would the flu. Way more children die from the flu than die from coronavirus. Why is it a danger if I take my kid to go play with his friend and we've both been locked down? We've both been staying at home for way over 2 weeks. Why is that a problem?
Wait,
and
you
a
mean
lot
you asked the parent? Have they been out to see anybody? Did they fly on any planes? You did your own research before you decided?
Right?
I never heard of such a thing.
Call it being a parent, right? But you have these people who say, well, no, you're not doing it for your own kid. You're doing it for your next door neighbor. You're doing it for the people at the grocery store. And it's just really concerning to me because we have this groupthink mentality, I feel like, creeping up on us instead of just the individualism that makes America so great. And it's like, I'm free to make that decision for me and my family the same way you're free to make the decision. Well, I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, supposed to be.
Okay.
Not in a system of collectivism.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was growing up as a kid down south, we used to go out and eat dirt. Maybe that's why, we stayed well. But there was a time, if you knew a kid had chicken pox, your parents would want you to go and play with that kid so you could get chicken pox and
be done with it.
Be done with it.
You know what? Mine did, totally on accident. His dad had the shingles, and he was too young to get the vaccine, and he ended up getting chickenpox. And I was like, why are people so scared of this? This is great. He didn't have to go in for a doctor's appointment and get injected, and he felt fine. He didn't even know he had it. He was a little itchy for one day, and then he was over it. I realized there are, again, outliers to that as well. But I mean, you bring up a great point that I feel like with all of these new vaccines that we're getting, we've become conditioned to think if we don't have a vaccine for something, we're all going to die and we should be scared of a virus when typically, especially with new, like sanitizing procedures, hygiene procedures, our bodies were really designed to fight this stuff off. Am I off base here?
No, I think you're right. And I think that the key to that is you making your own educated decision on how to respond to something like this. And I've always taken the Milton Friedman free market approach to just about everything. I've never seen free markets fail. And I ask liberals to give me an example where free markets have failed us. And they don't. And Sweden, what they did, they took a free market approach to this. They said, we're going to open the movie theaters. It didn't mean that everyone was packed in like sardines to the movie theaters. 98% of the movie theaters were empty. People decided for themselves they didn't want to go. So they say a partnership. Imagine that. The director there, whoever that guy was, he says, we're going to work with citizens. We're going to work with them on them. Imagine that. Nobody's working with us.
Yeah,
right
how
now.
nice of you.
I mean, who would have thought? What a sad state of affairs that we're in, that Sweden is our example for how to make sure to maintain our own freedoms and individual choices.
Well, this is a result of an education system that's become a system of indoctrination. We don't teach civics. We don't teach our Constitution. We don't teach the essence of liberty. And so it goes back to what Benjamin Franklin said, those who are willing to surrender essential liberty for temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah. Grant's been on the program since all of this started, and I feel like I have a pretty good handle on where you stand with how the president has handled this whole coronavirus situation.
Look, I think the president, I've told you before, I think the president's doing great when it comes to actually handling the situation. Does he say some things that I wish he wouldn't say? Yeah, but he's been doing that since the beginning of the election. He's the same guy that I voted for. He hasn't changed at all. And so I don't get upset about that. I don't let it bother me. But when it comes to how are you handling it, are people in the right positions to make sure that the country is safe and on the right track? I don't think there's anything you can argue about how the president handled himself. Look, he shut China down way before Joe Biden won. Joe Biden made fun of him and disparaged him for shutting down travel to China. That's the leader you could have the next election go around. President Trump was on it and he shut it down early. I don't know what everybody's problem is.
What are your thoughts?
I grew up in the military, and we had a saying: "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." You have to be, very flexible. You have to adapt. You have to improvise and overcome. So as we have had more data and more information come in, I still have seen us stay wedded to this plan that we've got to have this lockdown. We got to have that. And the president came out back in March and he said, we cannot allow the solution to be, greater than the problem. And that's what we've done. We're going to hit 30 million Americans that are unemployed. And now we have an incredible crisis. We have an oil futures market that crashed here in the state of Texas. That's going to affect the budget for the state of Texas coming down. So I would have hoped that the lesson we learned is that as you get more information, intelligence, from the battlefield, since they said this was a war, you make adjustments on decisions that you have made and don't stay wedded to the initial plan that you came out with.
I think from the president's perspective, for any president, the hardest job they have is trying to surround themselves with people they can trust. Yeah. Because everybody in Washington is out for their own self-interest above national interest. So he's bombarded with all of these things, and he's gotten himself into this issue with the whole lockdown scenario. And I think we probably could have come out of this earlier. I wish we would have been in what Texas calls its phase one. I wish we would have been in phase one from the very start. But again, I think he's doing his best under the circumstances. Do I agree with everything? No. But that's the beauty about conservatives. We don't just blindly agree with each other just because we both call ourselves Republicans or conservatives. That's a Democratic thing. It works for them great when it comes to elections. But when it comes to the free flow of ideas, I would much rather be a conservative.
Yeah, and I know I would not want to be in President Trump's position, having to deal with making all of these decisions that obviously with the mainstream media the way that it is, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. All right, back in a minute.
Get a second opinion.
Get a second.
All right, before we go, if you've liked what you've heard from this Texas expert right here, we've gotten into Texas a lot this program. Don't forget, he is also a candidate for Republican state chair. You can go find out more information or contribute, figure out how you can support by going to west4texas.com. That's West 4. Number 4. Texas.com. I got that right.
You did.
Okay. All right. Good.
Another $5.
Yes, I told you a woman's got to make a living. All right. Yesterday's poll: who is more likely to end up voting for Justin Amash? 83% of you said Biden supporters, followed by 17% who said Trump supporters. Interesting, because other than that poll, I was really seeing a pretty even split whenever I was viewing the commentary online. What do you think, Colonel West?
I came into Congress with Justin, and I've seen him kind of go off the ranch a little bit. Yeah. I don't think he's going anywhere, and I think that most people that are never Trumpers may give him an eye, but Trump's going to win re-election.
Wow. What do you think, Grant?
I'm right there with Colonel West on this. I mean, there's no way he has a chance. And he does a lot of things that are good. I use my example with Amish about the same that I used about Paul, both father and son. His good ideas are usually really good, and his bad ideas are really bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also, it just bothers me, it just feels like it's very self-serving doing it now. Certainly he knows he can't win, and it's not about the libertarian or conservative principles, I think, at this point, because it would have been done a much different way.
I chalk that up as the bad idea.
Okay, yeah. There it is, right there, Sarah. Today's poll: in light of the responses to Joe Biden's sexual assault allegation, who is the biggest Me Too hypocrite? Here are your choices: Alyssa Milano, Kirsten Gillibrand, Hillary Clinton, or Kamala Harris. How about all the above?
All above. You
always do this. You always do this.
I know. Well, it wasn't me. It was the social media team. You can let us know what you think. You can go to The Blaze's Twitter. That is @TheBlaze. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.